It's easy to say that we trust in God until the bills stop piling up, until the doctors give us bad news, until the relationships stop falling apart. Suddenly, it feels like God is not moving fast enough. And whether we like to admit it or not, in those moments, we act like God is a liar. But here's the truth. God's word and his promises are not just suggestions. At the end of the day, our opinions shift and our feelings can fade, but God's word remains unshakable. So let us ground ourselves in what he has already spoken. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, it tells us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. And in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths." Notice this, God never said, "Trust me," when it all makes sense. He said, "with all your heart." What does that mean? It means when your mind is screaming with doubt, when your situation looks impossible, even when you can't see the next step. He calls us to lean on him, not in ourselves. And listen, sometimes it's not supposed to make sense. Sometimes it's supposed to look hopeless. Because if we could figure it out by ourselves, if we could fix it by ourselves, then we would brag and say, "I got myself out of this." But if it looks impossible, then you will have no choice but to say, "This was nothing but the Lord's doing." The hardest part about faith is that we want control. We want to decide our timing. We want to write our own story, and we want to plan the outcome. But every time we grab control, we end up with unnecessary drama, delays, even heartbreaks. Think about Abraham and Sarah. God promised them a child, and then years passed, nothing happened. So what did? They took matters into their own hands, and Sarah gave Abraham her servant Hagar. From there, they had Ishmael. That decision brought a lot of conflict, pain, jealousy, and division. Yet God was still faithful. Isaac was still born, but they had to live through problems that they couldn't have just avoided simply if they just trusted in God's timing. But that sounds like us, doesn't it? God gives us a promise, but when it doesn't show up on our schedule, we panic and we make a plan B. Instead of running to God, we run ahead of God, and then we wonder why we're tired, confused, annoyed. Surrender is the heart of trust. When you tell God, "I can't figure it out, I don't know the next step," that is trust in action. It's tempting to want to waste your time trying to figure it out, trying to play God in your own life. However, true surrender comes when you let God know that you can do your part. "I give it to you." And to ask him, "What are you trying to teach me in this season?" And to remove anything that doesn't belong, to cut away habits, the idols, the distractions that are keeping you from getting what God has in store for you. But warning, that prayer can be dangerous because sometimes God removes the very thing that you are very comfortable with. He may ask you to let go of that relationship, environment, or patterns that make you feel safe, but is secretly blocking you from receiving your blessing. But God doesn't just take away randomly. He removes so he can replace. He cuts so he can cultivate. He breaks so he can build. That is why Jesus said in John 15:2, "Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit." Okay, so pruning can hurt, but it does it so it can prepare you to receive the blessing that comes with it. You have to have the character to hold it, because if you're praying for God to give you something and you're not ready for it, it could destroy you. And you know one thing about God? He's a God of order, okay? It's not delay, it's protection. The more you focus on God rather than your problems, the more smaller it gets. The more clarity you get, the more peace you get when you focus on God. But when you focus on your problems seem so big, so impossible to get through. Listen, God can turn your situation around in 6 months, 6 days, even 60 seconds. But the real question is, will you be ready to receive it when he does?